First time I ever tried to special order food at a restaurant because of my Crohn's disease, I was told you'll offend the chef. Before I get into what happened, let me tell you a little bit more about what led up to that and how I deal with special ordering now. Welcome back to Digestible Dialogues. I am Sherry Lip, the founder of Happy Gut for Life, and I have lived with Crohn's disease for 26 years and counting now. And I like to share my experiences with you, and this one is a great one. So my first experience special ordering food at a restaurant, it was before I actually had my Crohn's diagnosis. While I was in the midst of symptoms and back and forth to doctors, I had a trip to New York City. I was with my husband. We were out there for a film festival. I was in the midst of not knowing what food to eat at all because I hadn't had my diagnosis and I knew a lot of things affected me. But for this trip, I happened to be feeling pretty good. What led up to the offending the chef was that my doctor had told me to avoid acidic foods. At the time, he had thought I just had some ulcers, even though my symptoms were much more severe than that. I'm actually in the next episode going to talk a little bit more about that, but we'll stick with restaurants right now. So he had told me to avoid acidic foods like tomatoes. So we went into the restaurant. I was looking over the menu and I found something that looked fairly plain. It was a fish, and vegetables, but it had like a tomato sauce. And so I said, I'd like to get this fish, but no tomato sauce, please. And the waitress said, no, we can't change anything because you'll offend the chef. And so I explained to her that, I can't have tomatoes. I need to have a little bit of a consideration here. And so she went off and said, well, I guess I'll ask the chef in that case. But she didn't seem very happy about it. And that was my first time feeling bad, feeling that burdensome feeling that would plague me for quite some time after this happened, after I got my diagnosis and realized this was going to be a lifelong challenge. Did you ever feel that way? Do you ever feel like you're a burden when you just need to accommodate your stomach, your gut? I did. I felt that was my first time just feeling guilty, feeling bad, feeling like this is going to be a problem, feeling like I was causing a problem, and I just didn't even really know how to react. Now, I have found in the years since then that a lot of places will be quite accommodating. In fact, a couple of days later, we went to a different restaurant. That one happened to be in our hotel. It wasn't even that nice. It was nice, but it wasn't like super nice or anything. It was in the hotel, and it wasn't a fancy hotel. So the next night we went to actually a fancier restaurant, and a couple of nights later, and it was a seafood restaurant, and they were completely accommodating. They did everything I asked for, and it was like one of the best dinners I've ever had. And a funny story about that is that the people said it was one of these restaurants where they actually have to pull out the table so that you can sit down on one side. One side was like a long bench against a back wall, and then the other side was a chair. And so I was sitting on the wall side, the softer seat side. And the tables are very close together, so it was practically like you were sitting with the other people next to you. And so I just happened to overhear, me and my husband overheard them talking, and there was a couple who were on their first date. We got that from the conversation, but the guy happened to be a gastroenterologist, and so we must have kind of glanced at each other when he said that, and because for like several minutes after that, the couple kept talking about how horrible it is when people eavesdrop on your conversation. And we weren't trying to, we were literally sitting, it was probably less than a foot away. It was like you're practically felt like you were just sitting at the same table. So that was kind of a funny story, but we glanced at each other because I was going through so many problems. I had been to the gastroenterologist so many times without getting an answer. And so it was just so strange to be sitting next to somebody who happened to be one. Anyway, on that meal, I was ordering fish again. I found that fish can usually I still find that a lot of times at restaurants you can get it cooked very plain. So in this case, I got it was a kebab and it had several different kinds of fish on it, and I was like, It was supposed to be barbecue, and I was like, "Oh, can I just get the sauce on the side?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't have to give you the sauce. It's fine." It was just some grilled fish, plain steamed vegetable. And I wasn't on SCD diet at the time, so I was just trying to figure out what worked for me. And my husband wanted to get they had rice pudding, which is his favorite dessert, and so he wanted to order that. It was on the menu, and I was like, I don't know, what I should get, if I should get dessert. And they actually brought me out a big bowl of fresh fruit. It was great. I mean, I was kind of symptomatic, so fresh fruit was a little iffy, but it was totally fine. It was really good. It was like the best, well, some of the best treatment I've ever had at a restaurant. And so that's when I started to like piece things together. And I've always been nice, and tried to be like, I understand that this could be difficult, and most places are accommodating, or I just, like sauce on the side. I just ask for sauce on the side, dressing on the side, whatever. I try not to make a big deal. And a lot of times you can, some people will call ahead. I don't think I've ever done that before. Maybe when it was like a group thing, and I needed to make a special arrangement in that case. But in most cases, I just kind of look at the menu and deal with what I can. But what I found is that sometimes places will be very sympathetic to your situation. I know, again, when I was trying to figure things out that I didn't know, I met a group of friends for lunch, and I just could not. That was at a point then, really bad symptoms. I couldn't eat almost anything, and they just brought me out some dry toast, and like, you don't even have to pay for it. Like, they felt really bad for me that they could tell, the server could tell I was struggling. And another occasion, we were on a road trip. This was post Crohn's diagnosis, post surgery actually, but pre SCD just by a few months. And we were on a big road trip. We're in the middle of nowhere at a Denny's. That was the only place we could find to stop. And even there, even at the Denny's, the waitress was like, "Oh, well, just tell me what you need and I'll try to get it for you." And she actually brought me out, she also brought me out some fruit. And she's like, "Oh, we got some strawberries and some bananas we put on the pancakes and they're plain." So she brought me out that. You can find those people, even at a place like that, which you wouldn't think would even fit. And because even before I started SCD, I was trying to be careful about what I ate, even though post surgery they told me you can eat whatever you want, it doesn't matter. But I knew by that point that it mattered. And then once I found SCD, I got a lot more answers. But eating out at restaurants, there have been times where I just felt horrible about like, well, I can't go to this place or that place because I'm just not going to be able to find anything accommodating. So I feel like I'm ruining other people's plans. Now I don't worry about that so much. Now sometimes I'll just go and not really order much, just order something very small just so I can go and have the experience and not worry about the food. Other times people who know will ask, "Oh, is this okay?" And then we'll work it out together. There's lots of things. I really had to lose that feeling of being a burden. That led me to give up on the diet for a little while. This was a long time ago now, but I just felt so that wasn't the only reason. Now, I shouldn't say it led me to it. It was just a multitude of reasons at the time. But I had a bad time, and I had to really learn like how do I live with this? How do I make myself fit in here? How do I not worry so much about it? That's really, how do I not like get this feeling like I'm burdening everybody, feeling disappointed because I can't have everything. And really, that's why I started like cooking a lot and like developing my own recipes and like really getting stuff that I really loved. So I didn't have to worry about that from restaurants. I don't really hardly ever even go to restaurants anymore. It is kind of usually for a social occasion or a work thing. But when I do, I look over the menu, and then I had to be not afraid to just say, very matter of factly, I need it like this. And I really haven't ran into those similar problems like you'll offend the chef since. So the waitress came back way back in New York, and she said, "Oh yeah, the chef will do it." I kind of knew he would, because most restaurants want you to enjoy yourself there and be able to come and have the food. Most places, and if they don't, if they were, if they're sticklers, if it's, or if the server Well, and most servers are great, so I'm not calling this particular server. I don't. Maybe she just didn't want to ask him. I don't know. I don't know what the situation was. But most places will accommodate, and if they won't, that's not a great sign for the restaurant. Like I said, I got accommodation at a Denny's, and many times I had one place we stopped at, and you know how you get fruit on the side, and it's usually like a couple of grapes and a piece of pineapple and a bunch of cantaloupe. This place, I ordered fruit on the side. It wasn't even offered. I asked for, I asked if there was any way to do it, and they brought me out all this mango and strawberries. It was really good. So I've had that before. I had that once I've had that a couple of times. There was a restaurant in Las Vegas that they thought they were taking too. I had special ordered, but they thought they were taking too long to prepare it, and they brought me out this big bowl of fruit. So fruit, fruit seems to be the answer a lot of times. So I hope you can have fruit. If you can't, then hopefully you can get to that point, because fruit at restaurants sometimes it's a mixed bag. Like I said, sometimes it's like you have to pay extra, and it's this tiny little cup. But a lot of times, I've had more good experiences with the fruit than bad. One thing is, I love New York City. New York City has been, I've only been a couple of times since the having Crohn's and then being on SCD, but it was so great. New York City is so fantastic. There's so much food, and a lot of the delis had salad bars back when I went. And I went very much pre-COVID. And so I want to know, so somebody tell me, do they still have that, or did that go away with COVID? But even we went to this one deli that didn't have the salad bar, but they would prepare a salad to order, and that was really good too. And they just gave me exactly the toppings that I wanted, and they mixed it and shook it, and it was really a good salad. So I found New York was like my very, very favorite place to find food. So tell me, is it still just as good? If you live in New York, or if you go there a lot, I would love to know. So please tell me your dining experiences. Have you had any adventures like that? Did anybody tell you you defend the chef by, with your special order? I would love to know. And tell me your restaurant tips and secrets for getting what you need. Thank you so much for listening or watching, and I will see you in the next one.